Hello, Bronx Community College students. So, I am composing a brief tutorial to go over MLA Works Cited Page formatting with you guys because a lot of you seem to have trouble doing it on response paper 2. So, I just wanted to compose just a really quick tutorial to go through the basics and simplify what can often be a daunting process for you. On its face, making a works cited page is intimidating because it involves paying a lot of attention to details and it involves doing something that students seem to hate doing, which is looking up stuff. I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. Nobody memorizes how to cite anything. So the first step in composing a works cited page is looking up a citation guide. And the citation guide that I recommend you use for this class is the Purdue OWL. The Purdue OWL is a publicly facing resource from Purdue University. And one of the reasons I recommend it for you guys is that it is consistently updated, it's free, and it's not awesome, but it's fairly easy to navigate. It is very thorough. Uh, it's a little bit clunky, but once you get the hang of it, you can usually figure out what you're doing. So I'm going to click on the link. As you can see, I locate it through Google the same way you guys do. Uh, and then, yeah, once I click on this link, I've got all this stuff. And as you can see, there's almost too much stuff here. There's a lot of visual noise. So cutting through that noise is really about looking for the things you need. If you need like in-text citation basics, the in-text citation basics section is awesome. But what we're going to really be looking at here is how to cite things on a works cited page. So I'm going to open up a couple links and then we'll kind of hop through them. Each of these links is tied to one of the most common forms of citation you'll engage in this class. So we have books, which are sort of like the root of all citations in MLA formatting. You've got periodicals. Periodicals refer to anything that is published periodically, right? So that's like newspapers, academic journals, and magazines. And when I say magazine, I mean like anything from The New Yorker to GQ to Men's Health to Playboy. Um, you'll actually run into situations where you will cite Playboy in academic contexts because Playboy actually publishes a lot of short fiction. Weird, I know. Go figure. So you've also got electronic sources. And electronic sources are where you'll probably do most of your citing for this class because, as you may have noticed, all of the sources for your second response paper are electronic sources. That's why you're not supposed to use page numbers when you cite them in your essays. That's why you're not supposed to use, like, any particular marker. Like that. Yeah, you're citing them as electronic sources because you're accessing the digitally published versions of these sources. So, once you have sort of the general class of source that you want to look up selected, you'll then want to find the best fit descriptor for the source that you're trying to cite. You could use the basic style and just sort of adapt it based on what you have available to you, but I really recommend using specific formats because that signals to your readers that you're using a particular source. One of the reasons we ask you guys to do stuff like this is because we want you to get in the habit of learning to signal what you're looking at and that you're engaged in a conversation with a particular group of people to your audience. So by citing something in the correct order, you're signaling to your audience that you know MLA and that you know they expect to see it. The same way that when I talk to you guys, I use a different cadence, tone, and vocabulary than I use when I'm talking to my friends, life in general, and my coworkers in sort of a professional setting. So, scroll on down. So most of the sources that you guys engage with in this class aren't ebooks, they're not images, they might be considered websites, but the most accurate descriptor is probably this, an article in a web magazine. As you can see, like if you look at, for instance, here we'll scroll over to the Is Gentrification Really a Problem article by Khalifa Sana. as you can see, we actually have a pretty clear sense of just what this is. It's an article in a web magazine, right? It's published across 2 different issues in the print magazine, but the version we're looking at here is a web version. So, in order to actually generate a citation from this guide, I have a really, really tricky recommendation for you guys. What I recommend you do is copy the model citation provided by the Purdue OWL into a works cited page, and then fill in the details. Now, I know this is going to seem kind of like cheating, but the reality is it's not. You're just taking a template and you're filling in the gaps. Cheating is doing something like using EasyBib. And I think I showed this to you in class, but normally when you use sources like EasyBib, it messes up your citation. So really, like, just don't do that. If you can't tell if something messed something up for you, you shouldn't do it, right? If you don't know if you made a mistake, then you made a mistake because you can't tell. And the purpose of this isn't to create a perfect works cited page. No one will ever care that you created a perfect works cited page. My goal is to make sure that you guys know how to check a system of references and arrange about 4 lines of your paper in a way that is highly detail oriented. So what I'm really looking for is that you guys looked up the citation system and made sure that your papers adhere to it. So here, we're going to hop back and forth and find things like the name of the author. In this case, it is Khalifa Sana. So I'm going to fill his name in where Mark Bernstein's name is. And by the way, side note, Khalifa Sana is a dude. It's a really, really common West African name. I know it might not seem like a normal name here, but, you know, cultural frame of reference always matters. Then we've got the title of the article. This is the title of the article, by the way. This is a byline. This is the title of the article. So, I'm just going to look at that and then type it out because it's not easily copy-pastable. And then we will locate the name of the magazine. Usually, if you're looking at a web magazine, the name will be located in the header of the page. In this case, we're looking at The New Yorker, a magazine that college professors love to make you guys read. I'm no exception. And next, we're going to look for publication date. Now, for this particular article, it's a little tricky because as you can see, there are 2 publication dates here and a 3rd one here. When you're looking at multiple publication dates, I recommend going with the earliest one. In this case, we can kind of figure out what's going on if we look at these dates carefully. So it looks like on July 4th, Khalifa Sana probably published this article online, and then on July 11th and 18th, that was probably in a print issue. So, based on that inference, we'll want to use the July 4th version of this because it's the most accurate one that we can find. I will say one thing. This system uses the European date sequencing despite being an American system of citation. I couldn't tell you why. And if the one thing you mess up is that you say July 4th instead of 4 July, I'm not going to care. So after we add the date in place, what we need next, as you can see, is a URL. So I'm just going to hop in. This one I will just copy paste. And a date of access. So our date of access will be today, which the day I'm making this is April 17th, 2020. Next thing I'm going to do is actually remove formatting from this. Like I said, if you don't do that, you'll probably be fine, but I want to do that because I am a dork and I like to be thorough. So let's go over how to format the other 2 common types of sources you're going to run into in this class, and then you guys can get on with your day. So the other types of sources that I have arranged templates for are books. We're going to go over basic book format, not because I expect you to cite books, but because it's just useful to actually know how to do it. Basic book format is the basis for all other formats in MLA, and as a result, you'll want to kind of have a working familiarity with it. And then the other format that I want you guys to familiarize yourself with is from the periodicals page. I want you to become familiar with how to cite an article in a scholarly journal. When I say you'll need to cite an article from a scholarly journal for your final research paper, this is the format that I want to see from you. And as you can see, it looks a little bit different than some of the formats you'll often see presented through the digital citation makers, because I'm not asking you for some of the crazy metadata you often have to dig through an article to find. Instead, all I'm asking you to do is sort of get this basic publication information in hand so that I can track what you're talking about. So we'll paste that in as well, and then we're going to hop back to these sources. So this is what an academic article looks like. By the way, if you guys are using an academic article that doesn't look kind of similar to this, with an abstract, authors listed up here, and this is kind of key, like a bunch of references, you may want to reconsider or just check in with me to make sure that what you're using is an academic article. So here again, we have information that needs to be sort of translated. When you're dealing with an article with multiple authors, you'll always take the author listed first, in this case Stanger Hall, and list their name out first. And then following authors will be listed just in the order that they appear, with their names just being presented normally. I don't really have a good reason for that. That's just what MLA tells us to do. There's no great explanation for that. So once we have that information in hand, we'll look for the next thing, which is article title. Now in this case, I am just going to copy paste this. It's probably going to jack the formatting up a little. Oh, didn't. That's unexpectedly nice. Cool. All right, and then we need the journal title. So in this case, the journal title is listed up here. You'll also be able to see the journal title usually down here. So +1 is the title of this particular journal. I believe that's the correct way to say it. Yep, cool. All right. And then the next thing we need is sort of the metadata about when it was published. So we need volume, issue, year, pages. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the volume, issue, and year and month because it's provided here. So volume 6, issue 10, October 2011. Cool. All right. And then last but not least, page range. Now, because this is an EPUB, it is just kind of like the normal 1 to, I think in this case, 1 to 11 is our page range. That's correct. You'll usually have a weirder page range, but we cite what we can see. And in this case, I can see that this starts at page 1 and goes all the way to page 11. So I'm just going to do... And we are done. So that was tedious, but not awful. Finally, we're going to look at a book to show you how to cite books. So this is the poetry reading that you guys will be dealing with later in the semester. And what we have here is called a title page. The author's name and the title. Now, that's pretty basic stuff. You guys can figure that out usually by looking at like the front of the book. The reason I reproduced that, oh, I should have tested this beforehand, is that there will usually be publication data contained on the other side of that page. All right, I'm going to scrap showing you how to cite a book right now and just end this video. It feels long enough anyway. Books kind of need most of the same information you have here. You'll just also need the city of publication, which is going to be the city nearest to you, and the publisher and the publication date. I don't want to stretch this out while I dig through PDFs to find one with a legible title page in it, but a title page is basically that page that's usually on the left-hand side of a book that you are reading that has tons of data about like when it was published, who owns the copyright, where it was published, and what printing you're looking at. I'm just going to pull a random book from the side of my desk here and show you what one might look like. So this is an older title page. Copyright data is located there. If you are not looking at a book that is from just honestly the last century, your title page will usually look more like this. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to cut this and show you one more thing before I close this out. So, when you are looking at an article or a works cited page, I should say, like this, you should probably alphabetize it. You're supposed to alphabetize it. Again, I'm not going to be super strict about that. I want to see that you are engaging in just kind of like basic formatting practices, and that you're really paying attention to the information that you're providing to your readers and the order in which that information is presented. So stuff like this, where things are ordered correctly, will be valued more than whether or not they're alphabetized. Okay? And then the other thing that I think you guys should get in the habit of doing, because it's actually a neat trick and it's just a useful skill to have, is I want to show you how to do a hanging indent. You are supposed to have a hanging indent on all MLA citations. Again, I don't know why. I think they just think it's pretty. So, in order to create a hanging indent, you just drag these little carrots up here, and the top one controls where the first line is indented. So, the bottom one controls where all other lines are indented. So if we drag that top one back, separate them out, and drag this other one over here, you end up with a nice little hanging indent, and it looks kind of cool. Learning how to do stuff like that in Microsoft Word might seem like a nothing skill. I will tell you guys, I've actually gotten gigs because people were impressed that I knew how to format documents. Silly, yes. True, also yes. All right. That is it from me for now. I will talk to you guys later. If you have any questions about this, I'd recommend setting up a Zoom conference with me so we can go over how to actually work through those issues one-on-one, because it's probably going to involve sharing a screen and showing you sort of how to do this with a particular text. Have a good one.